Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go back and learn how to navigate the space in SketchUp. So I'm going to go back to the file that we were working on. And we drew a cube. So if you missed all that, I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to grab my selection tool. I'm going to select each section, and you'll see that it's hollow. And what's one of the things about SketchUp is that the shapes, it's like you're working with paper, as opposed to in most 3D programs, this object would be filled. I'm clicking on the edges and deleting them, and all the shapes in here are created using faces and edges. And what I did was I grabbed the rectangle tool, I started from that origin point, and I dragged diagonally. And then I dragged it out, looking down at the dimensions until it read about 5 feet. And then I let go. Then I used my push-pull tool and I clicked and dragged up. And now what I've done is I've created a cube. Now, I'm gonna get rid of our little person here and delete them. And what I want to do is I want to show you how to orient yourself with SketchUp. So before I do that, I want to show you how you can manipulate the object and change the views. So if you go up to view, you'll see that, I'm sorry, if you go up to camera and you go to standard views, you'll see that there's a number of various views for this object. And what we're going to do is we're going to name each one of the standard views, and then we're going to use our orbit tools to understand how to maneuver around this shape. And so this is one of the first exercises I do to try to get people used to the idea of working in 3 dimensions, right? So under camera, standard views, I'm going to go to top. So I'm now looking down on this shape, right? And what I want to do is I want to go over to my 3D text tool. I'm going to click, and I'm just going to type the word top. I'm not going to worry about the font size or height or anything. I'm going to click place, and I'm just going to click and place that on the top of that box. Now I'm going to do that for each of the different sides. So I'm going to go to camera, standard views. I'm going to go down to bottom. I'm going to grab that 3D text tool, and I'm going to type the word bottom, and I'm going to click place, and I'm going to place that on the bottom of the shape and keep going until I've named all the sides of the shapes. I'm going to go to camera, standard views, and I'm going to go to front. I'm going to grab my 3D text tool. I'm going to type in the word front, click place, and place that on the front of the box. Try to put it in the center, but it's not critical. And then I'm going to continue on camera, standard views, front. Let's go to back. Same thing. I'm going to click and the word back, click place that on the back of the box. And then I'm going to go up to camera, standard views, and go to left. Same thing, grab my 3D text tool, type in the word left, place it on the surface right here, like so, and continue on, camera, standard views, right. I'm going to grab my 3D text tool. I'm going to type right on the screen, click place, and place that on the surface. Now, I'm going to go back up to camera, and I'm going to go to standard views. I'm going to go back to ISO. And as you can see here, I can see the 3 different sides of this shape. And what I want to do now is I want to practice some skills at navigation. So if you come down to this bottom section here, you'll see there's an orbit tool, there's a pan, a zoom extents, previous, and next. So if I grab this orbit tool, you'll see that I can click on the screen and I can orbit with that tool. And when I click with my left mouse, it allows me to orbit around the shape. So I can see the front, I can see the right, I can see the left, I can see the bottom, I can see the top. I'm orbiting around that shape. Now, if I grab the hand tool, what that does is it just moves the whole situation around on the screen like so. And then I have a zoom tool, which will allow me to zoom in by clicking with the left mouse. I can zoom in, and if I click on a certain place, it will zoom into that place. Actually, it didn't work as well. And then zoom extents will come into the area and snap into that area. And then I can also click and drag outwards. And now, instead of using those tools over there, my suggestion is that you get used to using your mouse. So lots of times in applications, the scroll button doesn't really serve much of a purpose, but when you're working in 3D applications, the scroll button is relegated to a bunch of different types of tasks, and one of them in SketchUp is orientation and navigation. So instead of using those buttons there, I'm going to hold down the scroll button and I can orbit. And then if I hold down the scroll button and scroll, I can scroll in, I can orbit. And then if I hold down the scroll button and hold down the shift, it's the same as pan. So I can do all that with my middle scroll button, right? I can scroll in, and if I put it over a certain area, it will scroll into that area, scrolling back and forth. If I hold down the button, I can rotate, right? And if I hold down the shift key, I can pan. So what I want you to do is make a box like this and just practice orienting yourself by moving it around and looking at it. And what we're going to do now is we're going to save this. So this is your first little exercise. We're going to go to File. We're going to choose Save As. And what we want to do is we want to save this as a .skp file, which is the default format for SketchUp. And so I'll call this box for orientation underscore EXER1. And then we'll save it into our folder for SketchUp. So I'm going to make myself a special folder for SketchUp. And put all of my materials in there. And so when you work in SketchUp, let me save this. And let me talk for a second. When you work in SketchUp, you build your model using the .skp format, and then you export it to other standards. So you might export it to a still, you might export it to an animation, you might export it to a file that can be printed on a 3D printer, which is a .stls file. So I'm going to show you how to properly export your file. So you work in a 3D-dimensional environment, and then when you're done, it has to be exported to other formats to be used. Okay, let's stop right here. We'll come back on the other side.